holiday break. Welcome to the Book of Very, Very Bad Things podcast. It's me, Pete, once again. I hope everyone was safe, sane, and happy during this holiday season, these winter months, whatever you celebrate. I hope it was fantastic. Our Patreon should be jumping off relatively soon. All you have to do is pay attention to our Instagram page at the Book of Very, Very Bad Things, where the announcement should be coming down within the next 2 weeks. With all that aside, I'd like to introduce you to the music of your labor. Michael Faulkner got his start the way most of us do, as a fan. That fandom led to the next logical step, immersing himself in the scene of his choice, the Connecticut Hardcore scene. After finding his footing, Mike began making his own noise in punk bands like Nigel 6 and the garage power pop of New England legends the Damn Personals. By 2006, the Damn Personals had gone their separate ways, leaving Michael to devise his own musical alchemy. Your labor is that alchemy. A sanguine yet melancholy conflagration of bass-driven post-punk, ambient drones, and near Prince-level vocal deliveries. Your labor is a genre unto itself. It is with great pleasure I give to you Michael Faulkner, Your Labor, on the Book of Very, Very Bad Things. Just for the sake of legality, I have your permission to record audio and video of your likeness, voice, and so on.
I do.
Wonderful. Thank you.
That's affirmative, yes.
That is awesome. So, when I first run across you online, I didn't realize I knew where you came from, which was kind of an interesting way to kind of backtrack into you.
Right.
Because the Darkness Calling website, I've been following them for a bit, pretty impressed with what they do, especially with the, you know, they do their albums and whatnot, the compilations.
Yeah. They've been doing a good job. Only been going for I think a year, but it's been consistent work, every day. Yeah, they've been killing it. They've been doing good.
Well, what was great about that though was when I'd run across your track, that was the one that really stuck out to me. And then directly thereafter, they did an interview with you, and I started deep diving because that's what I do, because I have psychosis of some sort, I'm sure, and whatever my neurosis is, and I started to recognize names, and Damn Personals popped right out. I was like, oh my god, I saw them with Cave In, saw them with The Explosion. I used to kick I used to kick around Boston quite a bit. So you and I come from a similar world then, because I've seen pictures of you with Burn t-shirts and whatnot. So
for sure,
hardcore is not a stranger to you then.
Absolutely not. No, man. And that world is such a small world, I feel like. You know what I mean? It's
it is.
There might have been a bunch of shows, but it was the same people going to all of those shows. I grew up in Connecticut, and there was probably, I don't know, it seemed like a big scene at the time, but honestly, there's probably 300 kids at the most, I would say, going to shows. And it was just the same kids. So everybody knows each other, Yeah, man. And I think we're this. I think we're close in age too, right?
Yeah, I'm 45. So
yeah, awesome. I'm 44.
Yeah, we're in the same age group. And were you one to go? Did you end up going to the Anthrax and those places?
I never went to the Anthrax. That was in New Haven, I think, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that was just like a little bit before my time.
Okay.
I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure it closed down like right before I would have started traveling for shows.
Yeah, I think that
Probably like, yeah,
92, 93 Anthrax was pretty much done.
yeah, I think so. That's what I was gonna guess too. But we were going to shows, like in, I don't know, probably in 91, closer to us, like Yukon campus and stuff. There was like, Fugazi was coming through, which was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were venturing down to like Long Island and stuff like that too, like pretty early on, and saw like awesome hardcore all day festivals that like had like early Converge and like All
Yeah.
Out War and stuff. And I still remember Converge and Jacob like splitting his head open for like a crowd of like 10 people. Like their music absolutely ripped, and then their performance was just like, whoa, this dude is giving like everything he has
Yeah.
for this performance. And it's like, yeah, I still remember that, and it's been, I don't know how long it's been, like, yeah, hardcore really definitely impacted like how I approach live performance for sure.
Yeah. So if you're at all familiar with what I do with this show, you probably know the first question I'm going to ask, which is, what is it you're most afraid of on an existential level? Because
I have heard you ask that before.
The only reason I ask is because like that seems to cut right to the core of who a person is, where they come from.
Yeah.
I mean, that informs everything about the psyche. So that's why I ask. Coming from, I minored in sociology in school, so.
Right on. Yeah, man, that definitely cuts right to the chase for sure, and kind of like for sure can like open things up. Man, I probably spent too much time thinking about that. I would say, it's just that, just being a sentient being aware of your existence, and humans have a unique characteristic to know when the timeline is basically up, more or less. Like we know we have a finite amount of time, which, is like, if you can spin that and make that work for you, that's awesome. But in a lot of ways, I think it's just kind of like this weird living nightmare. You know what I mean? Like it's like beyond any sci-fi script. It's like we're living in a shredded sci-fi existence where it's like, cool, man, you're totally aware of like, your soul and everything, and you can get smarter and all that stuff. Great. But guess what? At the end of the you run.
Here's the fucking brick wall right here.
You're gone. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I probably spent too much time thinking about that, and that probably about 10 years ago drove me to start taking like meds to mediate that, which is, I'm all good. If anyone is gonna, need some sort of any kind of crutch or any kind of whatever to get through and survive, I think whatever works and whatever it takes, as long as you kind of keep a balance and like keep a healthy function, like I'm all for it, because life is not easy for anybody, what I mean? And it's like, whatever works, whatever you can do to survive and keep your equilibrium and general well-being and happiness or whatever is fine by me.
Oh, especially like if it's something as innocuous as a serotonin reuptake inhibitor. I mean, we've all been on.
Yeah.
Our age group especially, like we were ground zero for that, really. I mean, I remember going on Prozac when it happened.
Like, for real?
Legitimately, when Prozac happened in like early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, I was already on it. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yes. Yeah. Those are the early days. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did that work for you, if you don't mind me asking?
Absolutely not. In no way, shape, or form.
Yeah. But I'm sure the side effects world was even more severe back then. You know what I mean? It was more like experimenting on.
It made me violent.
Really?
Yeah, it made me incredibly violent, to the point where I ended up having to graduate high school from a boys' reformatory, basically.
Okay. Wow. So it
Yeah.
spun you the wrong direction. Okay.
Well, I mean, I was already like running around getting into fistfights with Nazi skinheads, as was our scene, as you well
Yeah.
know. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
ended up, I got out of hand, and yeah, I took care of somebody in a fashion that 45-year-old Pete would not have. I wouldn't even
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
I couldn't hurt a fly right now. But
Right.
at age 16,
Yeah.
look the fuck out. That's
Yeah.
29 years
For sure.
ago.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, if it was like at a show and like, was it at a show?
Yeah.
Was it at yeah. I mean, if fucking bunch of skinheads roll in, they're looking like they're kind of looking for a
Oh yeah.
confrontation.
Yeah.
They know what's going to happen. So, you were just doing your part. You know what I mean? And like
It
freaking.
was a New School show, actually. If you remember the band New School, they were the first, one of the first, the first in our scene, like rap, fusion
Oh
or hardcore
shit!
band from
I
Queens,
think
New
that
York.
were they ever called? Wait, am I maybe confusing? That's so familiar. Yeah, man. I think I might have seen them open for like that Bad Brains or something like that.
That's
I'm trying
very
to remember.
likely.
Shit. Did they
But
have a longer name by any chance, like Legends of the New School or something like that? Or maybe I'm confusing
you're
something.
confusing them with Leaders of the New School, the hip hop group.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But New School they were a Queens, New York hip hop inflected hardcore band, and they really, really incited a lot of issues with the skinheads. But that's neither here nor
Damn.
there. And
Yeah,
that's kind of how that went down. But it's interesting
yeah.
where, like, someone like you or I who came from, hardcore, and
Mm-hmm.
we make music. Like, the music I make now on my own is vastly dissimilar from my band. My band is very traditional, like hardcore punk, but what I make on my own is very reminiscent of something maybe Cockatoo Twins or Dead Can Dance would have made.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
what you're doing is, to me, very reminiscent of maybe something Jazz Coleman and maybe even a little Dead Can Dance, a little if you ever heard of Shinjuku Thief, they're like a dark ambient group. Like, you have this ambient
Awesome.
mixed with
Right.
ethereal, mixed with almost, I don't want to call it pop, but definitely in the spectrum, because there is a traditional songwriting formula
Yeah,
that kind
for
of
sure.
makes all of that stand out. You're not just going
Right.
off on these tangential journeys with
Right.
just waves of noise. This is a well-written song with these elements.
Right. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'm trying to blend those two. I'm trying to blend, yeah, almost like art music with pop, and see how effective that can be. You know what I mean? Like, if a good if a pop tune is good, it's awesome. It gets you pumped and gets you psyched, and if it can be that at the same time musically interesting and artful, like that's in my opinion, that's like a total winner. I love that.
Yeah.
One of the first things that I saw in your world was on Instagram was that I think you are like a diehard U2 Joshua Tree fan.
Yes.
Yeah, I am too. Like, that record totally changed my life, and like I still listen to it and get chills. Like the opening of like Where the Streets Have No Name or whatever. And I
Oh yeah.
think that album is, like, in my opinion, like probably the best example of something that's accessible and musically interesting. And because it's obviously accessible, it's like one of the hugest records ever. And the people that worked on it are like totally, like Brian Eno and Daniel Lanois are like out there,
Yeah.
like
Oh,
still, and in a great way.
and didn't
And
Steve
I think,
Lillywhite have his hands in that as well?
oh yeah, I think he did. Yeah, I think he was like an engineer on it or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the team on that record is like amazing, and I love that when it's like, it can be kind of accessible but also very interesting, and you kind of don't even um, see it or hear it happening. It just kind of is great or whatever. So that's something that I'm trying to go for. I definitely have stuff that kind of is more ambient and more out there and kind of not afraid to be outside of like a pop song structure
Mhm.
too. Peter, I lost one of my earbuds. I think it just like ran out of battery. Do you mind if I grab hardwired headphones?
Go for it,
Okay,
brother.
man. I'll be back in like 30 seconds.
Sure.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries.
Who's up, Baba? My fucking thing just no. Fucking back.
Barely.
Oh, 1 second. 1 second.
Oh, I can hear you now better than ever.
Oh, you can? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a little. Yeah, it's perfect actually. That sounds great.
Okay. I
So-
had charged those headphones like overnight, and I think it just one of them crapped out or something. I don't know what happened. One of those
Yeah.
days, like you said, it's like, tech
Yeah.
issues and
We have gremlins in our electronics right now,
yeah.
which is interesting because I just introduced my almost 3-year-old son to that movie for the first time about 2 hours ago.
Oh, that's awesome. Did he respond to it like did he like it?
He
He's
laughed
3.
at it.
Yeah,
He's 3, so if he smiles, he responded, in my opinion.
That's awesome.
But
Yeah, I'm sure it made his mind go, whoa, okay, what's going on here? Cool.
yeah, I was a bit older when that movie came out. I think I saw it in the drive-in when it first happened. So,
Oh, awesome.
that would have put me at like 9 or 10 probably.
Yeah, I think it came out in '84. I think.
Yeah. So I was a bit older, but
yeah,
we were talking about U2 and their whole production team, and I think that whole 1-2 punch of U2 and Depeche Mode Violator.
Oh
like
yeah,
Joshua Tree Violator.
yeah.
Had a really big impact on people in our age group who were interested in that sort of thing. And I also read that into what you do.
Yeah. Oh, right on. Yeah, Violator. Well, I mean, I liked the singles, but I didn't get into Depeche Mode until much later in life. And I'm sorry, like I feel I kind of almost regret that delay because they're a beautiful band. And
They're fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, they're amazing. I think I wish that I kind of got into them earlier, honestly. But it was just, back in the day, growing up, you only had so much money to get whatever records. It's not like today where you can, you're if you don't dive into like the good stuff, that it's like, yeah, you have no reason. But back then, it was like, man, I only have enough for these records, and I had to steal that Anthrax record, but I ran out of money.
Yeah, and Anthrax being my like number one band that I was into from, like, they were my main band. I still like when they did that whole like Spotify top whatever. Anthrax always wins for me because they
were in there.
Yeah, they're number one. They always are. They've been my band since I was a little kid, and
they're a sick band. They're interesting,
so
right? Because they're like considered thrash, but I think they are accessible. Like they're weird. They're a weird band. They're amazing.
It's good ass songwriting. That's what it comes down to.
And Joey Belladonna, man, rips. Like
I'm so glad he's back.
Yeah, apparently he can still kill it. Which is insane. Like I don't think anybody can do that. Like from the metal world, like he can still really rip and do the songs justice, which is amazing.
That's pure human talent right there.
Yeah, that guy's sick. That's awesome.
But what I find really intriguing about what you're doing is you're coming at it from I'm a bass player too, coming at it from a bass player's perspective. Like this whole thing is just like. When you were in Nigel 6, you were a bass player, right?
And you know about Nigel 6? That's
I
amazing.
do.
Oh, you're that's awesome, man. I started as a bass player. I started that band as a bass player, and then I rejoined later as a guitarist because they already had a bass player. And then we changed the sound to like a basically like a Fat Records band, kind of West Coast,
Yeah.
fast pop punk sound or whatever. So we started as kind of like an Operation Ivy band, and then I left and did something else, and then I came back, and then we turned into like a Fat Records kind of fast punk band. Which Lifetime had a lot to do with that. I'm sure you know the band Lifetime.
Well, yeah, come on, dude.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Ari Katz has more to do with my musical taste than.
Yeah, you should talk to that dude if you can.
That's already that's cooking.
Awesome. Yeah,
he and Dan, actually. Dr. Dan's on deck too.
Oh, cool, man. That's awesome. Yeah, those guys, like they were a life-changing group for me, for sure.
Background was life-changing, but then Hello Bastards again, because they changed sounds, and it was like, okay, they sounded like a hardcore band with a really emotional, dramatic singer, and then they go into Hello Bastards, and it's like Husker Du.
Yeah, for sure. Totally, man. And the lyrics are just like so great for like a teenager to just be like that energy with those lyrics. It's just like, it's a rap.
Yeah.
This is my jam.
Yeah. But then you're taking that journey like so you moved to guitar in Nigel 6.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm still I've always been a bassist, you know, like I can get by on guitar, but I consider myself a bassist where I can I feel confident enough to hang in like a group, like no matter what's going on kind of thing, and love it. Like that's definitely my primary instrument. And with this project with Your Labor, it was like, I really wanted to kind of find the punchiness of like a dark, aggressive bass kind of, and not have any guitar in it, like kind of shelve guitar and have the challenge of creating stuff without the guitar, because the guitar is just so fucking rooted in I don't know, man, in like everything. Yeah.
Unless you're in a band like Lycia or something where the guitar is almost an atmospheric like synthesizer.
Totally.
It's guitar based rock. And somebody like with U2 with the Edge does not play a guitar the way a guitar is supposed to be played. So absolutely, it's like a synthesizer.
Totally. Absolutely. And the times when he does play a more traditional thing, it's like, dude, this kind of blows.
Yeah. It's better when he's just like, he's really laying into his effects and just emphasizing on that almost Jamaican, like ska upswing. Like
for sure. Yeah.
It makes more sense.
Yeah, he's doing his own thing. Yeah. He's absolutely atmospheric and for sure he cornered that market. And there's a lot of times that I want to do something on guitar that's like the Edge, like a string sweep, like a or something like that. And I'm like, I can't do that, man. The Edge fucking did that.
The Edge did that, and then Tom Morello did that again.
Oh yeah. You know what's funny? Like I haven't talked this about like with anybody, but like I think Fugazi, like when they their first or second year and stuff, like I feel like they have a U2 influence, like in the guitar playing. And stuff, and you know what I mean? Like I've never really talked about that with anybody before, but like I hear the Edge and stuff like that in some of
Public Witness Program. Think of the beginning of Public Witness Program.
Okay.
And then think of Often on the Kill Taker. And then think of U2 that like it's very Edge.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. So did you know about Nigel 6 like back in the day?
I saw Nigel 6.
Oh, you did? Where?
Yeah.
Do you remember where?
It had to have been at either, because I used to go to shows at UConn. I used to travel around a lot because I was in bands too, and I was like, I hasten to say a teenage runaway, but I was.
Right.
All my friends were older than me. We used to travel around, so I probably saw you guys maybe like 3 or 4 times.
Oh, amazing! Cool.
So it would have been either Massachusetts or Connecticut.
Right. Yep. Yeah, for sure. Did you ever go to Pearl Street in Massachusetts?
Yeah.
That club was great.
Yeah,
we played there a lot. In New York, we played like the Wetlands.
I used to go to the Wetlands all the time too. So New York is a possibility. I remember the band more than the setting because I was not a straight edge kid. I was
right.
I was other. I'm the other box, you know?
Yeah. Totally, man. Yeah. Yeah. We were all straight edge. My brother wasn't and stuff. I had a group of friends that wasn't, and then a group of friends that was, and it was just all fun, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's all great.
But then you go from something like Nigel 6 to the Damn Personals, which is still punk in my opinion.
Yeah.
But it was more of the time. Like Damn Personals was more of that, like,
yeah,
not like the Get Up Kids, but definitely like the Explosion and all the other bands you guys seem to be like playing with.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that had like a niche kind of voice that was like rooted in like garage rock and like weird like mod shit. Like, you know, I don't know. You know how that like is, like the look is like mod and stuff like that.
Yeah,
you know, and the sound is kind of like garage. Yeah, it was like, yeah, there was like a scene happening. You know what I mean? Which is
the scene within the scene, which was indicative of that time period very much.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know that stuff is awesome. It's great when bands can influence other bands a lot, like in a real time. Like it's like you're having a conversation and ideas, and you're moving kind of something, not forward for lack of a better word, but like, you know, things are kind of like evolving and ideas are kind of bouncing off of one another.
It's a musical reciprocity because like everyone's kind of influencing each other, and then we're all moving together in that direction.
Yeah,
it's organic. It's not contrived at all.
Yeah. I would say today it's like I miss those days, you know, because now it's just everything, and you don't know where it's coming from. You know, there's like not really many curators. That's why I love your podcast and Darkness Calling and like other bloggers and stuff that you know kind of like can kind of like create that world, because it's interesting. You know, it's interesting to kind of talk about it. It's interesting to kind of, you know, hear what other people have to say and like how people are moving. Like it's you can kind of talk about your response and your like emotional experience with bands, which is important. You know, it's like if you're just pulling an artist out of like thin air and like it, and I don't know, man, I miss those days of like of having scenes. And
that's why I liken to what I do to a fanzine, because I started in writing fanzines, and B, this is more of a fanzine format to me.
Cool.
Just predicated on the fact that that's what I came from, and that's kind of the way I'm moving with this.
That's rad, man.
You know, what you did then with the Damn Personals was, I mean, albeit it was pretty brief.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you kind of stepped into the band as it was. You were on the last album, right?
Yeah. So I joined in 2003, and recorded a record with them. We wrote and recorded a record, toured a couple of times and stuff, and but the record never came out. It's a really cool album that has some great songs on it and sounds amazing. The guy who did it had done some Cave-In stuff. And some other things. He was a friend from Boston, and it sounds amazing. He nailed it. And it's like super aggressive, but still sounds garagey. It's like somehow he captured like a freaking in your face kind of like pop aggressiveness, but you still get kind of like a loose garage band or whatever. I think it sounds amazing, and I'm bummed that it never came out. And I was always kind of pushing the band to get it out. But
I heard the leaked version of it.
Oh, you did? Cool. Do you know where you found it?
Yes,
I was thinking of sending it to you actually, because I wasn't sure if you had heard it. Yeah.
I have a real bad version of it that I got off of Kaza.
Oh,
Kaza?
Shit. I do.
And it sounds tinny, just predicated on how Kaza was. You know, it was peer to peer, so it wasn't as bad as Tape Trading where it was muddled. But it was definitely had that MP3, like the crappy MP3 high end hum. So if you want to send me a good version of it, I'd be a happy kid.
That's awesome. I absolutely will. That's cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
But like, that record and that time period, like, didn't that kind of get muddied by, the Libertines, basically?
Yeah, definitely. That's why the band ended, was because our guitarist ended up joining the Libertines, and then that band, after they wrapped up, like turned into another band, and so our guitarist ended up moving to London, and the band just, we tried to make it work for a little bit, and we just were like, nah, this is not happening, and we didn't want to replace a person because it was just a real core kind of member of the band. So but definitely exciting times, and some good music were made,
And then you moved on to Murder Mile.
I did, after and that has the drummer from the Damn Personals in there, and then the singer from, I don't know, do you know the band Spring-Heeled Jack?
I love Spring-Heeled Jack. Yeah, I remember. Cool. That's why I remember the band.
Ronnie from Spring-Heeled Jack was the primary songwriter and the singer of that band, and we had so much fun. It was just like an absolute blast. It was just like jamming in the garage and having a great time together, and playing shows occasionally, recording where we could, or whatever. We probably didn't have enough money as we should have had to in order to sustain the band at that time. You know what I mean? But it was awesome. Like, we rocked hard in practices and loved it. We all had such a good time. That was not a straight edge band.
No. I mean, that was by the end of it all. I mean,
I remember drinking a lot of wine and cheap beer during practices, and it made us sound so good.
It definitely is the social lubricant people claim it to be.
Yeah.
So you go from these band situations to basically like it's radio silence for you for a while. It's from my perception anyway, because I didn't hear anything more. And then you come out of the other end of the tunnel with your labor. I mean, there's a big tectonic shift musically, and the emotion that is tacked onto that.
Thanks, man.
It's really mature, and it's really dark. It's really dark.
Thanks. Okay, that's cool. I'm glad that you feel that way, and that's your response, because I really don't know. Like, I'm not trying to write anything dark at all.
Well, I didn't call you goth. I said dark. And as much as I like what people would construe as gothic music, I mean, it's just, to me, that's not it. You're not.
Yeah, it's a different thing. During that time, so after the Murder Mile, I had moved down to live with my family for a little bit. I had just graduated college, and I moved down to be with my family and work with my dad and like carpentry and stuff, and it was amazing. And during that time is when I started teaching myself how to record on my own and making songs, and like having no idea how to do it. And I knew I wanted to create electronic drums and make it sound like a band, which is like really hard. Like, from my experience, very hard to do on a fucking laptop.
Yeah, it's not easy.
It took me years to figure that out, So for basically 5 years, I was experimenting, writing stuff, and developing recording techniques, and figuring out how I wanted stuff to sound for 5 years. I didn't put out anything, but I was still working quite a bit, like I was still making stuff and recording stuff a lot and writing tunes. I was just spending a lot of time figuring out computer software and what does what and what are compressors, and basically learning how to make a record. Which is very different from being in a band.
Because it's a ground up sort of undertaking. I mean, you're learning as you go. Yeah,
absolutely, totally. And it's like I was no longer just a bass player vibing with someone else's song. I was now everything. I was the songwriter. I was creating the entire vibe, and figuring out how far I wanted to take it in the pop world and all of this stuff. And it took me years and years and years before I thought to even like release anything, because it just was like, this isn't up to where I wanted it to be. Like, I knew I wanted to put out something different and cool that I liked, and it just took me a long time. It was like to figure that out, to figure out what I wanted to do, and to get things to sound like how I wanted them to sound, which was electronics meets kind of like a more aggressive instrumentation and stuff. And it was a weird journey, but I finally figured it out. And like, I think at the end of this whole journey, I was like, oh shit, I want to make stuff that sounds like Violator, or I want to make stuff that sounds like early, like new wave stuff, like Simple Minds pop tracks and stuff, and try to do that. But I didn't know that going into it, like, no, I just was kind of, finding my way. It just took me a long time.
But songs like The Shape, especially, like you're to me, that's jet black. It's jet black, yet it could have come out in 1990.
Right.
And it could have been a hit in 1990 when I was 13, 14 years old. And the reason why, I mean, it smacks of, like I said, that U2 Octung Baby almost meets Violator.
Awesome.
That whole German influence almost.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Because both of the aforementioned were very heavily listening to Einsturz and Neubaden, and they were also like finally figuring out who Killing Joke were, and finally figuring out who Joy Division were, and incorporating that into their not only sound but their look.
Yeah. That's that world of music is it's the, I don't know, that the stuff that I'm trying to capture is definitely the stuff from my youth that was on the radio, where that just like killed, like Depeche Mode. I'm so happy they were on the radio. I'm so happy that, what's another band that I kind of rediscovered recently that's like been killing me? Thompson Twins.
Twins, yeah.
Amazing stuff, like that band. I'm so like, my forming ears and brain was hearing all this amazing, groundbreaking, exciting stuff on the radio. And
Gary Newman was on the radio when we were kids.
Yeah, for sure. There was some far out there interesting stuff back in the day. Like I started revisiting like Casey Kasem countdowns and stuff, and I'm just blown away, like what was in the top 40 and how eclectic it all was, from the Pointer Sisters, like, I don't know, it was just all over the place. Like there was, it was weird, but somehow it all worked,
well, it all worked because it just so happened that all of these different sonic methods were being incorporated, and these weren't like, they weren't playing the same, like the same genre of music wasn't being like wholesale celebrated back then. I mean,
definitely not. Yeah, it was an experimental time, like in the studio, they were figuring out how to make stuff with drum machines for the first time, and right out the gate, like kind of making super interesting stuff. And the next thing you know, that would be on the radio. And it was a very interesting experimental time that I think was probably really, really exciting to be a part of, and talking about kind of motivating each other like bands in the scene can do. Like, I think that time was probably just a really exciting time to be an artist and working and kind of hearing all of this interesting stuff on the radio.
What was the emotional side though of this shift, of kind of this mood you're inhabiting musically? Like, because obviously there are the melodies and your ear for what you're accomplishing, but obviously there also has to be a psychological and emotional counterpart to that.
Yeah, totally. I think it was always there. I do. Like, I think the emotional stuff was always there. Like, even in the damn personals, I would, play with them, and that was like pure like rock, as turn it up to 11 kind of rock. And then I would go home and listen to like a band like MEW, or like
Yeah.
Sigur Rós, or Efterklang from Denmark or whatever, or just like all of this like super introspective kind of stuff, and
Like Bell and Sebastian and all that stuff.
yeah, for sure. But more ambient, actually, even like during that time, like Brian Eno ambient records and stuff like that. And just I don't know, I always liked that. I always have had that balance of like, let's rock the fuck out with, let's dive in something that feels totally isolated, and like you're fucking standing in the middle of like the Arctic or something.
Well, Sigur Rós definitely checks that box. Between them and Mogwai, I don't know who does that better, actually.
Yeah. Totally. So that was always there. So I think I always wanted to make music that was like super emotional, I think. And I think I really did. And just, I don't know, I think that's always a thing. Even back in the Nigel 6 days, it was there was that element as well, where I loved listening to like, I don't know, like super weird, sad, like like the Romeo and Juliet soundtrack or something like that. Like just like super. Yeah, so, like I was way into sad songs back in the day, and then had to cut it off around probably around the time when I started to record my own stuff. Honestly, like 2009, 2010, I was like, you know what? I need to stop listening to sad music because it's bumming me out. So I turned that off, and I think I listened to more beat driven stuff, and that's kind of where the impetus of me recording and incorporating electronic drums came in and happened, and realized that I kind of wanted to have, with my own music, have a little bit more kind of movement and upbeat, somehow pop like structure, foundation or whatever. But I guess I always still go dark, man. And
your recorded output all has a common thread of just, and I don't want to call it nihilism because that's not the case, but there's definitely something maudlin about it all.
Interesting.
Not in a foreboding sense, not in a I hasten to say like goth, like I said, but it's not like wrist slitting music, but there's definitely it's not dark for darkness's sake. There's something fundamentally maudlin about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best way to put it.
Thank you so much for your response and your feedback, man. I really appreciate it. That's good to hear from such a concerned listener, I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
And that makes sense to me, like I think to go back to your first question about like existentialism and stuff, like I think with my music, if I had to identify an emotional experience that I'm having, I think is like responding to all of the injustices that are in the world that we live in.
Yeah.
And I think that's like where my internal kind of rage and anger comes from, is being tapped into that stuff, and then kind of, I guess letting it out in my music, although I've never really thought about that. But that's like where kind of my anger and darker emotions comes from these days, is just like being tuned into all of like the many, like it's all around us. It's like, how much do you want to be tapped into it? You can't be totally vulnerable to it all the time. But yeah, man, that's I think that's where that comes from, and that's where the Euro Labor project, I think, like specifically, like that's where the darkness comes from. Is like living in the world that we live in, and responding to that.
Especially with the social consciousness that was indicative of the scene we came from.
Absolutely.
You kind of leave yourself like a great big raw open wound to all of it.
Totally.
I mean, I don't know if you came from the animal rights bent of that whole scene, but I still do. I'm still vegetarian, you know.
Me too. I've been vegetarian like ever since I fucking, you know, I was 16 and encountered some PETA pamphlets at like an Earth Crisis show or something like that.
Yeah,
probably.
and that's how it popped off pretty much.
Yeah. I was like, God, exactly. That's so, that's absolutely true. Yeah. It's like that aspect of my music has not fallen very far from hardcore of that time, like where there is a purpose to the music and a purpose to just kind of putting stuff out there from my experience. You know what I mean? It's, that's amazing. And that makes so much sense.
And we're all Morrissey's kids, even though he may have flown the coop.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like growing up as a Smiths and Morrissey fan, and if you bought any of those VHSs, there was a PETA video attached to the beginning or end of each and every one of them.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, especially like I was a pretty avid Smiths fan, so anything they put out, I bought. And
awesome.
Like, the singles collection on VHS, there's a PETA video tacked onto it. Any Morrissey, Morrissey, he was and is, if not anything else, staunch animal rights activist.
For sure. Yeah.
He also supports nowadays some pretty sketchy pro-Tory, pro-right-wing British things, but
I know it's a bummer when
it's a serious bummer for me.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and a lot of people. I know. You know, myself included for sure. I'm not like I love Morrissey and I love the Smiths and stuff like that. But I mean, I think his best work is, you know, behind him at this point, probably. So I feel like an asshole saying that, but he's a different person now, I guess. You know what I mean? A different kind of thing going on.
I just hope I don't, when I get to his age, that I don't about face the way he has.
I don't think so. You know, like I don't think that. I don't know, man. Who knows? Like, I guess it could happen.
I guess it could happen because look at him. I mean, he's a homosexual from England who is an animal rights activist, and all of a sudden he's pro-Brexit and is wearing these like basically like British nationalist pins on his lapels when he goes on to talk shows. It's
really?
Like, dude, yeah, like, well, it would have been one thing if when he was going on calling the Chinese subhuman, because the reason why he did that is because of animal rights issues, not because of the way he actually feels about Chinese people. It's because
I didn't know that. Yeah, when do you know when he did that? I didn't hear about that.
3.5, 4 years ago.
Oh, okay.
He started going off about the Chinese government and Chinese people and how they're subhuman. And it's because, you know, they allow cats and dogs to be skinned and sold as leather or as fur, rather. And, you know, they have a very blasé attitude as far as animal rights in that country. That's culturally speaking, that's how they do it. I can't speak to it.
Right.
But people were mad about that. But people got really mad when he was pro-Brexit and pro almost national front stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
That's unfortunate, man. That's really unfortunate when someone that I know it's a weird dichotomy, and you're right, man. It was like a 180 later in life.
It's like finding out Ray Capo owns like a pork barbecue restaurant.
For sure. Oh my God, man. Like it came, I guess, Eric Clapton has kind of like been like a weird British nationalist or whatever. Always. Yeah, right. Like, even back in the day, although it was, like from the 70s, like no one really heard about it because the channels of information weren't as, you know, everywhere as they are now or whatever. But that was good when I found out about him being a nationalist dickhead. I was like, great, that's more evidence to not listen to him. Like I never have. It's like, of course he's a dickhead. He sucks.
Yeah. Anything past Cream, I can give a shit less about Eric Clapton. I'm sorry to say.
Totally.
It's odd. It's odd though that like, you know, that like me circa 1988 through 92 is still my moral compass though.
I know, right? I know. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a beautiful thing, you know, that it came from can come from like a bunch of kids, like just like having fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird phenomenon too. And it's amazing that, like, you know, like the vegetarian element, the straight edge element, like, was just there. I guess, like, the straight edge element, I guess it's been traced back to Ian McKay. The vegetarianism stuff, I'm not sure. Like, maybe it was like a Gnostic Front, like, talking about that shit.
You know who it was? Youth of Today, and before that, the Cro-Mags, because they were both Krishna bands.
Oh yeah, Cro-Mags. That's, I think, who I was thinking of. Yeah, for sure.
The Cro-Mags, I think, are like right where that kind of pops off. And you know, Joe Strummer was vegetarian in the Clash too, but he didn't really write songs about it.
Right. Yeah.
But Cro-Mags are ground zero for that, and unfortunately, John Joseph is another alt-right luminary now.
Really? Oh Jesus!
Yeah.
Oh no.
Mm-hmm.
Oh bummer.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, that's why I'm not putting any more stock or you know, like there's no cultural currency in being a hardcore punk or a former hardcore punk anymore, because they're all.
That's weird.
I don't even know what to say about it.
Yeah, man, that's unfortunate. When did he, like, was it during the Trump era that he kind of voiced that stuff?
He wasn't coming out as pro-Trump, but he's an anti-vaxxer, which whatever.
Right.
You want to be anti-vax, that's on you. But he's really just like calling people snowflakes and this and that about, like, you know, people's gender assignments and whatnot.
Bummer.
It's a real bummer for me.
Yeah. That sounds like old man syndrome for sure. Yeah, and unfortunately, it can happen if you get enough chronic pain and you turn into like an alt-right asshole. Like, fucking, my back hurts all the time. Can I please just randomly yell at a group of people?
Let me just be a curmudgeon. I'm gonna write a book called "Meat is for Pussies," and then I'm gonna like bitch about cancel culture. Like, dude, think about where you fit.
My back hurts so much. Aren't there too many genders? What the? My back.
Oh, I'm gonna have to have John Joseph on now. I'm gonna have him on now just so I could be like, listen, dude, is it chronic? Do you just need a Vicodin? Like, stop being straight up. Just have a Vicodin.
Totally. You know what? I think you're right. He would be like, yeah.
Maybe you're right. Fuck it. Okay.
You're totally right, man. I'm sorry. That's hilarious.
So you're sitting on an album, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like a whole album's worth of music.
Yeah. Yes.
What's stopping you from just like putting it on Bandcamp, letting it fly?
That's a good question. I want people to hear it. You know, so I'm trying to, you know, I think for the first time ever on my own, I'm trying to like freaking plan a release strategy to get the stuff that I've been working on for forever to more ears, you know. Otherwise, I could put it, and I'm still working on some stuff too, because I'm freaking freak and I'm always trying to just get better, you know, trying to freaking kind of,
because you haven't pulled the trigger. You haven't pulled the trigger on releasing it, so it's sitting there. So you have the leisure of opening it back up.
Yeah.
And okay, I could tweak this. I could move this level. I could do this. I could do that.
Yeah.
At some point, you have to stop being precious about it and just let it roll. Yeah.
Absolutely. Totally. Yeah. Totally. Yeah, for sure. I have to get somebody to put it out. I think I have to get somebody to help me, because it's not easy. You know, it takes a lot of I think a lot of work, a lot of energy that I don't have. I think as an artist, it's hard to promote yourself and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Because we're not marketing geniuses, you know.
Yeah.
The younger generation, they seem to have their shit together with that sort of thing.
Totally.
I have no idea how to market myself at all.
Yeah.
I don't even know anything about Instagram. I have some younger artists that I've interviewed and that I've become friendly with, who are giving me tips like, no, don't, you're not going to beat the algorithm if you put out a post at 1:00 in the afternoon. It has to be like at 6 a.m. Like, I'm at work at 6. I'm a plumber. You know what I'm doing at 6 a.m? Something you would never want to do.
Yeah, they probably have a video game about being a plumber, but they would have no idea how to do it. Yeah, man. For myself, like, the emotional capacity to promote myself is just like this weird thing that I just don't enjoy at all. Like, I just feel like such a loser doing it.
The way we used to do it is we would go to the mall with flyers.
Yeah.
Or we would get interviewed in fanzines, or there was no or.
Right.
Go play a fire hall or a basement.
Yeah. Right.
Go and give out flyers at the mall, and then that's it, dude.
I know, right? And that was all in the living, breathing world, where it was like, cool, I'm gonna do some and a thing of like action, as opposed to lying on the couch, and creating some kind of digital thing that is, man. I know. I think that's right. I think the young people don't have a problem with like engaging that hustle, you know.
They know a lot more about it than we do, and I think that's a big part of it as well.
Totally. Yeah.
And I hate to out us as the middle-aged men that we most certainly are, but like that, at least you're still you're making music that is very much not only accepted but very, like, it's celebrated right now. People within the milieu of what you're doing, your oeuvre, are doing it on their own terms and doing it quite successfully. Soft Kill is doing it quite successfully.
Oh, they're killing it.
They're killing it.
Yeah.
Topographies is killing it. Lycia, who they've been around since we were young. I've been following them, and I actually put on shows for them back in the early 90s.
That's awesome.
They're finally getting their due after 30 some odd years of being a band.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
So, like, the whole post-punk, or whatever you want to call it, like, it's finally seen its new renaissance.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's good. It's cool. You know, I think it's a lot of good music. You know, it's stuff that kind of looks back, but is also looking forward. You know, in a cool way.
And it gets to be whatever it wants to be without being too codified.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, those are great examples of bands that are freaking indie bands, basically, and just fucking making some really great music. That just, like, these sonic achievements are just like great, you know. And I think, there's a lot of my musical heroes these days are engineers that are doing working in the studio. I love, like, working with mixing engineers and just kind of like getting an idea of like how they hear a song or whatever. Like, those are my heroes these days, like the dudes that are just slaving away in the art of making records and stuff. And I have so much respect for great engineers like Chris King from what the hell is his band name? Oh my god, I'm like fucking spacing on his band. They're on Deus. I feel like such an asshole right now.
Oh shit! And I should know this too.
Cold Showers. My bad.
Cold Showers.
Yeah. He plays guitar in Cold Showers, and he worked on the Shape and a few songs that I rapped recently. And then Adam Stilson from the band New Canyons. He makes some beautiful stuff. He worked on Ritual Howls and Hyde Records and stuff, and he's killing it, like, in the darker music world. Like, it's so good. I love mixing engineers, like, so much. They're just like, they're really interesting to me, and I you know, they're kind of my motivation to kind of spending so much time on my end to make things sound as best as possible. And I still love handing my stuff over to someone like those guys to see what they come up with to help realize a vision even further.
Well, yeah, and that's when you have to stop being precious about the finished product once you hand it off, because
you have to. Oh yeah,
they're going to see something or hear something specifically that you are not hearing.
Totally.
That is going to open it up.
Yeah, that's so true. Right? They can bring it to a place that sounds really cool in a lot of ways, but yeah, you might be precious about one little element, but yeah, you have to kind of you have to choose and like choose your battles or whatever at that point, because first of all, you don't want to drive someone that you respect a lot crazy with all of your tweaks and shit. They'll never work with you again probably. And then also money too, there's only so much money that you can spend tweaking something or whatever.
You kind of have to divorce it at some point. You have to just like, okay, then this is, I'm done with this vision. This is as far as I could have possibly taken it.
Totally.
And then you have to allow yourself to become the collaborative person that as an artist you are not.
Yeah.
Because I am not.
Right. For sure. Yeah. It's a humbling experience, it's humbling, Yeah, there's been a lot of times where I work on something and I'm like, damn, I think this sounds pretty good. Like, I don't even think I need a mixer. And then I will end up giving it to somebody and they're just like, I'm like, oh my God, wow, okay. I still suck.
It's not that. They're listening to things with a set of ears that we're not capable of.
Yeah, it's just different. It's
as songwriters, we're overly precious. Everything is as God or whomever intended. We're translating the muse that way, and we're not looking at it through the lens of the common listener, because we're not the common listener. We're not.
That's a really good point. It's really hard to mix your own stuff, I think, because we're being subjective about it and too close to it, and too precious and stuff. For sure.
But somehow the shape still comes out and comes across and reads as like this, let's face it. I mean, I only have 4 songs to judge an entire body of work on, but the shape is really, it's got that something like that sets it apart, where like if I were to have heard that on the radio and not known anything about you, I'd have been drawn to it immediately.
Oh, awesome.
And it doesn't hurt that it's called The Shape, so it kind of reminds me of Halloween, but still in all, if I didn't know the name of it, I'd have been drawn to it. And it's got that something extra that kind of gives you, like, if the house were all dark, okay, I'd be a little creeped out. I'd be like, okay.
Really? See, that's so interesting.
Yeah, it really does. It smacks of impending, impending doom. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
There's that doominess in the poppy beauty of it.
Yeah, that honestly, like, I don't hear it that way. Like, I can understand that interpretation for sure, and it's just very interesting for me to hear that, because I feel like it's almost more like it's a little bit brighter and feels almost like it takes like elements of like industrial music, like sonically or aesthetically or whatever, and kind of puts them in a pop thing that's kind of trucking along. But I don't hear but I guess there is like some ambient stuff kind of in the background too that might be like, there's like piano kind of like drone that really might create that vibe actually.
Plus, like, you could smack somebody in the face with a straight up dark song from beginning to end.
Right.
All right. Like, there's a drive to it that's, that minor key, and the minor key is always going to stir up something different than something played in a major key. But that kind of reprieve built into the poppiness of it and the light, the more light aspects of it. When it kind of pulls back and there is that drone in the background, that you need a light to create a shadow.
Yeah, totally. Yep.
So that's what I equate that
Yeah.
to, and I think that's why I caught that vibe.
Oh, that's cool, man.
I over intellectualize fucking everything though. So.
I love it. I'm all about it, man. I think that's wonderful. As an artist, I'm super happy to hear your response. I think that's fucking brilliant, man. I love the detailed kind of thought that you put into stuff. That's amazing. Respect to you for that, sir.
Thank you, sir. When I listen, I actually listen, and that's
right.
The only thing I could attribute that to. I'm not a casual music listener. I'm either sucked directly in, or it's gone.
Yeah,
it never happened.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I'm the same way too. Yeah, for sure. Cool, man. Peter, I really appreciate your response, man, to my stuff. You know, I'm surprised that for someone like you too, like to knowing your musical history and just like the heavier stuff that you've been into and stuff, that would say that it's dark, like it kind of means a lot. I'm like, oh shit, then it really is dark.
Oh yeah, because like if you look behind me, there's Neurosis.
Right.
They're my all-time favorite band is Neurosis. And now that's a dark band.
Yeah. Yes.
So for me to call something dark, it's gotta have an inherent darkness to it.
Yeah. No, for sure. It has some weight coming from you. Or I'm like, oh crap. Okay, interesting. Yeah. That's interesting. Thanks, man, for sharing that.
I appreciate it. So we've got the 4 songs. We got the album you're sitting on. Are you going to release anything new in the next, I don't know, month or so?
Yeah, I have a couple of things planned. I'm going to do a wider release of The Shape, because right now it's only available on Bandcamp. Mm-hmm. So that's going to get a wider release in mid-January. I actually went back and remastered a song with Adam Stilson, who is the mixing engineer that I mentioned. And he did a great job. So I'm re-releasing the song that I feel like didn't get its proper kind of volume level thing. Like streaming services really, really torched it and really brought the level down a lot.
They crushed the mids.
Yeah, it's so volume wise on a lot of streaming services, it doesn't have the impact, especially compared to like other stuff that I have out there. So he was kind enough to remaster that. So that's going to get re-released around the same time, probably in January. And then I have another single planned that I is going to be more new wave and pop, kind of like Simple Mindsy, that I think is a different world for me. And I'm really happy with the track. And that's one that I'm going to try to put like more where I've been talking to this photographer who makes like awesome, she does like editorial kind of like fashion magazine stuff, and she approached me with a concept which I was really appreciative of, and it was like totally like awesome, and just like this rad kind of like retro like weird information society video that like is like this you know what I mean, just kind of like this lo-fi
pure
thing.
Energy.
Yeah, absolutely. Killer track, by the way.
Yeah, it is.
Like,
I actually have the 12-inch single.
Oh man,
from when I was a kid. Yeah.
What, you had it as a kid?
Yeah, dude.
Holy crap.
Yeah, amazing, I remember I bought that in the $1.99 bin at a local record store.
Oh, that's awesome.
The Information Society Pure Energy 12-inch was it? And there was like 2 remixes and the original track. Yeah.
Awesome. That video, I don't know if you remember it. It's like awesome. It's just them dancing around with like, I don't know, it was like primary colors and weird cutouts and stuff, and it was just so simple and fun and awesome. So I think that's going to be a video concept or whatever that I want to make with this person, that is like that I have for this new single that's kind of new wavy. So that's something that I'm really excited for, and that's the first release really where I'm like, okay, I should put some money behind this and kind of like try to get it out there a little bit more or whatever. So that's probably a little further off, like in the spring, maybe summer even, or whatever. But in the meantime, I'm going to be trying to, I guess, try to talk to some people to see if they want to put out something bigger, like an EP or a full length. You know, I haven't done much of that recently. I haven't reached out to like any labels or anything like that in a long time. Yeah, I know.
I have more than one actually.
Oh my gosh, that's
when I like something, I like it, so I push it. And
dude, thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
That's insane. Yeah, I really appreciate that, man. Thank you very, very much.
No problem.
So I'm gonna do a little bit of that on my own, you know, for the first time in a while, and I don't know. Hopefully, something will come of it, and someone will be interested enough to put out a record, and you know, and take it from there. You know, I would love to grow the group too, like live. You know, right now it's just me with a drum machine and doing some stuff. You know, that I think is pretty cool. But you know, I could see other people being a part of it too. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a lot of that would probably have to be like pre-mixing from stage on your end.
Yeah, totally. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's like a lot of reworking songs to feel more punk and to feel more simple, you know? So I'm taking like a fucking wide range of shit and boiling it down to like 3 elements. So it feels like
immediate.
Yeah. Exactly, man. Yeah, you got to dial back all the reverb so it doesn't sound like a freaking weird. Yeah,
a cacophony of echoes and drones.
Yeah, in like a small club, it's like, why does this sound so fucking huge? But this room is only like 9 by 9 or whatever. Yep. You know,
I've seen bands that I'm friends with. I am still friends with. Struggle with that. Namely Lycia. Lycia.
Yeah,
played some local clubs. I set up a show or two for them, and I mean, on a national level, they were a lot bigger than they were in the Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania scene.
Right.
They ended up having a great show here, but they had a sub mix from stage.
Yep.
And you know, it's only a synth player, a keyboard player, and a guitar player, and it sounded so fucking good in this small space that it kind of blew people's minds. Like, wow, this sounds way too like it sounded like they were at like an Oasis concert, you know.
Interesting. That's cool, man.
Yeah. But that can be tough. That can be very difficult to live up to live on stage.
Yeah, that's good for them.
If you have a sound guy who's not with it.
Oh, for sure. Exactly. Yeah, totally. That's another reason I'm like, I gotta simplify this, dial this back. Excuse me. Yeah, totally. Because you never know who you're gonna get for sound guy.
The only good thing about all of this is I'm talking about the 90s. You know, we're well into. It's going to be 2022 before probably any of us are playing live again.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I think time is on your side with that.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. Yep. The first show that I can't announce it yet, actually. Never mind.
Well, this isn't going live for about 2.5, 3 weeks.
Oh, okay. So the Darkness Calling people are putting on a fest coming up in March in LA. That should be, I think it's going to be a lot of like 20 bands or something like that. That should be a lot of fun. So a lot of people that were on the comp that I released the shape on are going to be there. But they haven't announced it yet. So yeah. I have to be careful about talking about too much, whatever. But,
well, I'll tell you what, you let me know when they're going to announce it. And I'll just annotate as needed.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah. Because I don't want to step on.
I don't want to blow anybody's shit up, you know.
I know. Yeah. They've been working hard, and they're so nice. So yeah.
I really appreciate what they do. They everything they do, actually, I think is pretty amazing. So
yeah, and they do it with such heart and kindness. You know, it's like
they're actual curators You know, it's not like they're just like there was a recent thing with them where an artist that they had put on their compilation originally said some really out of pocket stuff.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
and it had something to do. It had something to do with either Me Too or anti-vax or somewhere in that diaspora of evil.
Yeah.
And they just said, okay, well, you know, good luck to you, but I can't be associated.
Yeah.
And I'm 100% with that.
I caught that. That was on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
I think of that. Yeah. I saw that. Yeah. And they handled it really well. Totally.
With aplomb. They handle it very well.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. I know. They're just, they're super, super nice. I'm super glad that they are out there doing their thing because they're making like kind of the Instagram, for me, making the Instagram world kind of come alive a little bit too, which is cool. Like doing interviews like you're doing, like they do like live IG chats, which there's not enough of that. I mean, like it's cool that they're doing like crazy live interview thing and pulling it off well. Like I wouldn't even try to do what they're doing in that respect. I was terrified to do that. I didn't like, I literally was like, I don't know. Am I going to be a freak? Like, I don't know. Like this is live. It's like, I could just, the red light comes on and then you put your foot in your mouth or something like that. And I don't know. I probably am a freak. I don't know.
No, I mean, I think all of that comes down to having the wherewithal to self-censor before something flies out of your mouth. And I honestly, I have no confidence in myself in that regard. If I were
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. I know, right? I know. I feel like I've said some dumb shit. Like,
well, we haven't said anything remotely ridiculous during this interview, but you and I both have the safety net.
That's
of
right.
The fact that I'm going to edit this need be. So, you know what I mean?
Totally.
I think we're a lot safer than if we were to go live, but
definite safety net for sure. Oh my God. Yeah.
So you have a hard out in about 8 minutes or so, 10 minutes. So
I do. Yeah, man. I'm not usually this busy, but today was just one of those days where it's like, you know,
it happens.
Yeah. I'm like, I swear. Yeah.
I can have you on for a second, part 2.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. That would be fun. Yeah.
Excellent.
Maybe after, anytime, honestly, you know, for sure.
So what would you like to leave us with tonight then?
You know, I definitely would, you know, I don't know. I would love people to listen to my music. There's not a lot of ears on it, but I think it's, some interesting stuff that works in the world of post-punk and new wave and kind of trying to move that conversation into a contemporary world or whatever. And it's darker than I think it is, apparently, which is awesome.
It is.
That's sick. I'm proud of that. I'm happy with that. I think that's awesome that it comes across as dark. I don't know, but I want to just thank you for the opportunity, man. And thank you for recognizing what I'm doing. I think it's hugely impactful, man. And it makes my project feel real. And that's a thing that kind of just will keep me moving forward and trying to make some good shit, man. So thank you for reaching out.
Well, thank you for agreeing to be on my show.
Thanks, man. And everybody listening, listen to the Joshua Tree again. It'll blow your fucking mind.
Yes, it will. And listen to The Shape, because it will also blow your fucking mind, in my opinion.
Thanks, man. Thank you so much.
All right, brother. You have a good night, and I'll reach out to you soon to schedule a part 2.
That sounds good, man. Gremlins 2 tonight.
Absolutely, brother.
Take it easy, Peter. Thanks, man.
Hey, thanks, Mike.
Take care, man. Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Michael Faulkner of Your Labor. I want to thank you all for being with us tonight, for listening in, for participating. This is a labor of love for me. I really enjoy what I'm doing here, folks. Opening you up to new artists. Some you may have heard before, some you may not. But I hope as much as I'm servicing artists that have been heard, that have a built-in audience, I hope I'm also servicing artists that you may not have heard, giving you something new, something vital. If what you're listening to doesn't challenge you in some way, doesn't open your mind to a new possibility, maybe you're not listening to the right music. I believe your labor does just that. I believe it challenges, it engages, and encapsulates emotions. It's vitally important. I don't want to tie you all up by expounding upon the existential bliss that is music, but that's why we're here, right? This is what that's all about. Thank you so much for being with us again. It's been a great year. Well, it's been an okay year, but here's to hoping that the greatness that did occur during 2021 will be multiplied by 10 in 2022. Please follow Michael on Instagram, your_labor, LABOUR, where you'll find a link to his new single, The Shape, which is out now, courtesy of darknesscalling.bandcamp.com. And speaking of Darkness Calling, please follow Darkness Calling Official on Instagram as well. Curation is as important as the musicians themselves. Darkness Calling does just that. They are curators of dark and beautiful independent music, and I fully support everything that they have to offer. So please follow everyone I just mentioned. Please take care of one another. Bless you all, and I can't wait to sit down with you all again.